built the most famous family in the history of music, and when he died, his own children couldn't agree on whether to call him a hero or a monster. One daughter called him the man who gave them strength. His son once said the beatings were a kind of love, and the family he created didn't just make him famous, some of them say he made them afraid. So, which one is true? Stay with me, because the answer isn't clean. And by the end of this video, you might not want it to be. Fountain Hill, Arkansas, July 26, 1928. A boy is born who will one day put his name on a pop dynasty so massive it changes music forever. But right now, he's just a kid in a house with a father who runs it like a drill sergeant. Joseph Walter Jackson later described his own father, a schoolteacher, as domineering and strict. He called himself a lonely child. Hold on to that detail, because in a few decades the world will use almost the exact same word, domineering, to describe him. Joe didn't inherit money. He didn't inherit comfort. What he inherited was a template. Control equals survival, and he was about to apply it to 9 children of his own. First, though, he had dreams of his own to lose. He chased boxing in the Golden Glove circuit. It didn't stick. He picked up a guitar and joined a blues outfit called the Falcons, chasing a record deal that never came. Somewhere in there, he married a young woman named Catherine Esther Screws, and the dream quietly died the way most dreams do, under the weight of rent and responsibility. He took a job in the steel mills of Gary, Indiana. 12-hour shifts, molten heat, a paycheck that barely stretched. And in 1957, before the fame, before any of it, Joe and Catherine buried a stillborn son named Brandon. The public rarely talks about that part, but grief like that doesn't just disappear. It settles into a house, and it was into that same small, crowded 3-room home in Gary that his next sons were about to be born, the sons who would make him a legend. Because here's where the story turns. Joe noticed something in his boys banging on pots and guitars in the living room. Talent, real talent, and a man who'd already watched 2 dreams of his own collapse was not about to let a third one slip away, even if it wasn't his dream to chase anymore. He pushed hard. Rehearsals stretched 5 hours a night after school. Missed notes meant consequences. The stories that would later come out from more than one of his children described fear as a training tool, not just discipline as a parenting style. And yet by the mid-1960s, 5 brothers were touring in a Volkswagen bus, opening for acts like The Temptations. Then came a record deal. Then came a song called I Want You Back. Then came a level of fame that no family from Gary, Indiana, was ever supposed to reach. So, was it genius? Or was it something else, wearing genius as a disguise? Michael Jackson would spend the rest of his life trying to answer that question, and never quite landing on one answer. In 2001, standing at Oxford University, Michael told the room that even his father's harshness carried a kind of love inside it, that the pushing came from wanting the world to never look down on his children. It's one of the more startling things Michael ever said publicly, a boy calling his own pain a gift. But that wasn't the whole story, and Michael knew it. In other interviews, across other years, he described fear of his father so severe it made him physically ill before visits. He alleged abuse not metaphorical, not just intense parenting, real abuse. And when a journalist pressed Joe directly on it in 2003, Joe didn't deny hitting his son. He drew a technical line instead, insisting a belt and a switch weren't the same as a beating. Try sitting with that distinction for a second, because that's the exact fault line this entire family would fracture along for the next 15 years. As Joe aged, the empire he built kept its distance from the man who built it. By 2015, his body had already survived 2 strokes and 3 heart attacks. He was slowing down, but the family wasn't getting closer. If anything, the gap widened. Just days before Joe's death, his son Jermaine told the Daily Mail that some of his siblings couldn't even get access to their own father, that they were being kept in the dark about where he was and how he was doing. Think about that. A family famous across the entire planet, and some of them reportedly couldn't get in the room with their own dying father. By mid-2018, the diagnosis came back terminal: pancreatic cancer. On June 27, 2018, Joe Jackson died in Las Vegas. He was 89 years old. And then came the reckoning, not in a courtroom, but on social media, in real time, in front of everyone. His daughter Toya posted a tribute calling him the man who gave the family strength and made them one of the most famous families in the world. Michael's estate released a statement calling him a strong man who acknowledged his own flaws and lifted his children out of the steel mills of Gary and into worldwide stardom. But underneath the tributes, other voices surfaced too. Grandchildren defending him. Old accusations resurfacing. A public split right down the middle. The same split that had defined this family for decades, now playing out in real time for millions to watch. So genius or tyrant? Maybe that question was always the wrong one to ask. Maybe the more honest question is this: what does it actually cost a family to become that famous? And who's the one who ends up paying the bill? Joe Jackson's name will always be tied to one of the greatest musical dynasties this world has ever seen. That part isn't in dispute. What's still unresolved, what may never be resolved, is whether the price was worth it, and whether the man who built the dynasty ever really understood what it cost the people he built it with. That's not a story with a clean ending, and I'm not going to pretend it has one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Head to the comments section and let us keep the conversation going.